coming up.
Some of the improvements Jim Jensen's made in feed efficiency has gained him more net per calf.
Not only are his claims of feed efficiency extremely accurate, their carcass quality would rank right up there with the top 5% of what we get to feed in a given year too.
Lucky 7 Angus is setting new standards in beef cattle efficiency. Next on The American Rancher. Hello and welcome to The American Rancher. I'm Pam Minnick. Years ago, Jim Jensen at Lucky 7 Angus set out to improve feed efficiency in beef cattle. Jim's work, research, and data have resulted in up to 30% increase in documented feed efficiency, making American ranches more profitable year after year. These feed-efficient cattle are healthier, more drought-resistant, and second to none in carcass quality. On today's show, we'll meet some producers who run these cattle, and we'll show you how Lucky 7's DaVinci genetics are setting new standards in the beef industry.
We're at Boulder, Wyoming, about 7,200 feet. This is called the nation's ice box because of the coldest daily temperature in the United States. And you add that along with big pastures that we have some pastures don't even have a fence line that probably into the several 100,000, if not millions of acres. It's really tough on the animals and the ranchers. The friends and family and neighbors and all the fellow ranchers around here, I always wanted to make them the most money possible. So going back to the bulls that wouldn't work here, we wanted to make bulls that could work here. So we had to run those bulls in tougher conditions than any commercial cowman would. And that was part of the program that we started here. It worked extremely well. People were they were having a good luck with the bulls, and the bulls were holding up, cattle were holding up better. Being above 7,000 feet, we decided that we would go into the pap testing, which would make sense for my high elevation customers and all the friends and neighbors around me. And we got into that, set a lot of benchmarks. We set the first ever standards in the industry for pap testing, and we then went on to become the leader in the industry in high elevation and pap testing. We've noticed as we were chasing the brisket disease and trying to eliminate it that we had a lot less sickness and death loss in our animals. And we also have noticed that there's a lot less of the animals in lower elevation feedlots that are dying due to right heart failure because of the work we've done. We started to work on feed efficiency. If you look at like Kansas State University did a study and they figure at least 70% of your cost of doing business is feed-associated costs. The only way you can prove out feed efficiency is to have some sort of scientific data that will absolutely prove how many pounds of a nutrient that these animals eat versus how many pounds they gain or what it takes to maintain. It's the low-hanging fruit, and it would make the most money for any rancher in the industry. We purchased a grow-safe feed efficient system, and we have data and we've got substantiated proof of the feed efficiency and how these cattle are eating less. The older cows, we know for a fact that we're running 35 to 40% more cows per acre than we used to.
Up next.
Not only are his claims of feed efficiency extremely accurate, their carcass quality would rank right up there with the top 5% of what we get to feed in a given year too.
Lucky 7 DaVinci cattle eat less, save money, and are environmentally friendly. That story when The American Rancher continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to The American Rancher. Compared to other proteins, the beef industry is decades behind in feed efficiency, but Lucky 7 DaVinci cattle are already there. Jim Jensen's investments into feed intake research are not just proving that his cattle are feed efficient, they demonstrate other important economic benefits as well.
One thing that happened when we started the feed efficiency thing is we started having customers come to us and say that they had 75 to 100 pounds heavier calves than they used to have. And that's hard to believe when you're not producing an animal that's a big overgrown performance type animal. We produce mother cows. Decided to go ahead and feed out a lot of our cows. If I'm going to tell everybody I got the most feed efficient cattle in the world, I'm going to have to go out there and do a little more proof other than just what I can do on my ranch. And so we started feeding out a lot of our own animals. And yeah, we definitely hit a home run with the feed efficiency, which is 10 to 15% higher than the feedlot averages. But the interesting thing is our carcass numbers was off the charts. It is very seldom that we don't have a set of cattle that go 100% choice and better. In the last 2 years, we've had several sets that went up to 59% prime. And so that's an advantage that we never even thought we had. Another thing that happened, we have two producers that went all in with our genetics. And these two producers in the last 2 years have had animals that weighed 1,400 pounds and were marketed at 13 months, 100% choice and better. This is a huge economic advantage because instead of hitting the June, July, August market, now you're hitting the April, May market, which is about a $220 advantage.
If we get cattle to gain more, they're going to be more efficient. There is a good correlation there, but it doesn't mean that the calves, just because you have faster rate of gains, doesn't mean you've also got feed efficiency following along for the trip. So the question is, which has the most value to the producer, average daily gain or feed efficiency? If you contrast two average daily gains of, like say 4 pounds a day versus 3.2 pounds per day, and you use a 35-cent per day yardage, really the difference between those two is going to be days on feed. And that amounts to only about $15 difference between those two average daily gains, assuming they're at the same feed efficiency. If you contrast a feed efficiency of 6.5 at closeout versus 5.6, and the diet's around $313 to $320 per ton in terms of cost, that difference is close to $70 between those two calves. And I think that highlights the importance of really a focus on feed efficiency and not just gain or some of the typical performance parameters that we focus on.
If you look at the rest of the world and the terminal cross kind of cattle that everybody else is creating, their 10% increase in average daily gain only creates 18% more profitability. And that is only at the feedlot level. You'll lose every single one of those pennies when you're trying to work those unfunctional cattle on a real world ranch. Whereas 10% increase in feed efficiency will give you 43% more profits, and that is going to be at the ranch level and at the feedlot level.
When Jim and I first talked, and he talked about that his primary focus had been on feed efficiency in his genetic decisions in the past, I was curious to see if he could back that up with real-time data. And what we have seen is exactly that. I mean, to put it in context, I just want to be clear that we do get to feed some of the best cattle in the country. The thing that's been interesting to see over the years, and as more and more data has come in, is that not only are his claims of feed efficiency extremely accurate, their carcass quality would rank right up there with the top 5% of what we get to feed in a given year too.
When we first started with this program, we were trying to create animals that were designed for Boulder, Wyoming, one of the toughest places in the world. High elevation, extreme temperatures, extreme tough conditions. At this point in time, we've been to a lot of different places. Right now, we send a few bulls to Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Kansas, Nebraska. So we're branching out to several states as the people are finding out that these cattle are not only working here, but they're working everywhere else.
Being in eastern Oklahoma, the bulls have worked extremely well for us. When they hit the ranch, they're in their work clothes. They stay with the cows. They're aggressive from the day we put them in to the day we pull them out. At the end of calving season, they've proven to be very sound, gain their condition back very well at the end of breeding season. We recently added on to our ranch. We bought a few more acres right there close. We got with the local ag agencies, and they prepared us a grazing plan on what they thought would work. We went in, all lucky 7 females with lucky 7 bulls, and we ran almost twice as many cattle on the place as they had recommended, plus we cut the hay on it. So that has to go back to something, and it has to be the feed efficiency of Lucky 7 bulls.
After the break,
Jim has came the whole way from America to be with us, and has certainly, if we think of our topic, sustainable beef production.
see why Lucky 7 DaVinci genetics are attracting attention on the global stage when the American Rancher continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to the American Rancher. Lucky 7 Angus is quickly gaining recognition around the world as the leader in feed-efficient beef genetics. Although these cattle were created to make ranchers more money, they are also environmentally friendly and could be the answer to the tough scrutiny placed on farmers and ranchers everywhere.
Well, it's humbling to be known as the worldwide leader in feed efficiency. I mean, who are we? We're just Jim and Jamie, Middle America. We created cattle that make ranchers more money. Cattle that live longer, cows that live longer, bulls that breed longer, live longer. Less sickness and health issues. We lead the world in pap high elevation, which causes less sickness in low elevation, and is doing a great job with the right heart failure and low elevation feedlots. And then you add that to the feed efficiency of 30 to 40%. And what it creates is cattle that can create more pounds of beef with less feed, of course, but it also creates less greenhouse emissions or less methane emissions per pound of beef as well, which is a huge issue with the scrutiny on the farmers and ranchers in the world today. And that is why we're getting this attention.
We're excited just that Jim was able to come and share his story. You know, what Jim's doing, I know it's the other side of the world and it's totally different, but there's elements of what Jim's doing that we can learn from, and we're just excited that Jim is happy to come and share his story. So if it's okay, we'll let Jim just rip on here.
Well, I'm assuming everybody here is in the farm agriculture industry. I believe that, and I just want to give everybody a hand right there for that, because we are the salt of the world right here. This is why we travel around, we do what we're doing, because of you guys, because without agriculture, nobody survives, right?
Sustainable beef production through application of science. I'm now going to invite our first speaker, Jim Jensen. Jim has came the whole way from America to be with us, and has certainly, if we think of our topic, sustainable beef production through application of science, this is something as a farmer, Jim he's taken the science and really taken it to the next level. So I welcome Jim, and I look forward to his presentation.
Well, good morning. 2% of the population feeds 100% of the world, right? Agriculture is the only industry in the world that's absolutely essential for human survival. I think that people need to be aware of that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to educate the people about agriculture. You guys can go out there, each and every one of you guys. I appreciate it because you're all either farmers or you're one generation from a farm, and you're all good people. And people, once they see who we are and what we do, I think that they're going to be very happy that we're the people that are producing the food for the world, right? So you guys need to be very proud of who you are. Sustainability isn't about them telling us what to do and telling us how to fix the environment and us fixing the environment. Sustainability, number one, people have to eat, right? If people don't eat it, the rest of it doesn't matter. Number two, the only way they can eat is you guys have to be profitable. If you guys are not profitable and you can't make a living, you're not going to produce and they don't get to eat. And then number three, we can worry about the environment. We will go out there and we will take the smallest granule of dirt and we will nurture it And then we will make the smallest piece of grass, and we will nurture that until we have millions and billions and trillions of pieces of grass, and then we got animals on top of that. And we will stay up all night long calving those animals. We'll stay up all night long loving and getting that calf to suck and doing whatever he has to do. In our case, we might go out there and fight wolves. I don't know what you guys have to fight. We will put our bodies, our lives in danger. We'll work countless hours to nurture. Who better to take care of the environment, take care of the people than us?
So we give that first speech there. It was a really casual setting, you know. So I just basically told them what we had to offer as far as the truth about the environment and where cows fit in. Cows are not the problem, they are the solution. Because what I noticed when I was in the UK was that you might be able to help another country fix a lot of their problems. So that was humbling to me.
Is there anything specific that you think increased the marbling in your cattling?
Only after we tested our cattle. I remember when I told you we were testing like the 8,000 head. We were testing for feed efficiency. The surprise came that we had the carcass traits of some of the best breeders in the world. We had no idea. I don't know why our cattle are marbling so well and our carcasses are so well. I really don't. But I can tell you feed efficiency didn't eliminate it like some people would say.
How have you seen your mature cow weight developing? Are they getting bigger or smaller or staying the same? Or it's an interesting debate in Ireland on cow size. How have you found your herd?
So the answer to that is our cows are right in the middle. They're probably smaller than a lot of the cattle in the UK that we've seen. In the really big cattle, but we call them the terminal cross cattle because they don't last, especially in our conditions. They can't take our conditions. They don't live long enough. They can't get bred up. And then we've studied this more small frame cattle that some of the world has said that we're feed efficient and they're not good at all. But when you do feed efficiency, you can test for your environment. That's a beautiful thing about it. Is if you have an environment that requires big cows, you can have big cows. Just find the feed efficient ones. If you have an environment that has to have small frame cows, just find the feed efficient small frame cows. But there's only one way to get feed efficiency or prove feed efficiency, and that's through actual scientific testing. Don't listen to any numbers that the Angus Association has. Don't listen to anything that's not scientifically proven. It has to be tested scientifically.
What do we need to do as an industry going forward to make our beef industry more efficient?
You guys are doing a lot of things right. In some of these realms, you guys are much more willing to try and go forward than the people in the United States.
1% of the population is kind of against us, and they're just telling the rest of the population things that aren't true. And we just want to change that narrative and tell the truth so they'll get the Kool-Aid that we want. And it's the same thing. We took the film crew over to these speaking events, and they are creating a film called The Art of the Cowboy, the Lucky 7 story, which will be on Explore Flix, and I think it's going to be on Prime Video before Christmas of this year. Wayne Atkinson and Andrew Clark was so impressed with cattle and the vision that we had that they wanted to come to America. They wanted to see our genetics, and they wanted to see a bunch of technologies and stuff in the United States to help them as well. So I set up a one-week tour. They showed up in August. We went through Oklahoma, we went through Kansas, we went through Nebraska, we went through Colorado, and we went to Wyoming. The number one thing that they wanted to do is they wanted to see the 44 Farms Walmart Prime Pursuit cattle. And the reason that was is because they're NHTC-free cattle. And they do a bunch of the things that they have to have in the UK that's mandatory for them right now. And they wanted to see if these cattle, what these cattle can do. So we traveled around. We probably got to see about 300,000 head of cattle. We got to see several of these NHTC-free cattle, several thousand of them. And then at the end of the day, we ended up going to some of my customers. And the first customer we walked into, the guy out of Ray, Colorado, and he had several hundred head of replacement heifers there. Beautiful set of heifers, 100% Lucky 7 Angus, have been for years. And then right across from that, he had a 400 to 500 head of fat steers ready to be butchered. And they looked at him, and here's kind of how the conversation went. They said, he says, man, that's the most consistent, nicest set of cattle we've seen ever. they're going to kill next week at 1,375 pounds, and they're going to go 100% choice and better. And he goes, well, how old are they? And he goes, 16 to 17 months. The guy says, well, how long have they been in the feedlot? He said 60 to 75 days. And he says, but they've been in the feedlot the whole time. You just didn't ramp up the feed? And he said, no. He said, once we wean them, we kick them back out on pastures, ryegrass, and then in May, we put them in the feedlot. They'll be in there 65 to 70 days. And the guy looked at us and he goes, yeah, he says, that's incredible. But he says, we was looking for some NHTC-free cattle because that's what we have to do in the UK. And the guy looked at him and he said, these are all NHTC-free. He said, we're doing the exact same thing as the cattle you came here to look at. And their word exactly at that time was, you have not only dominated the entire normal cattle market, but you have dominated the NHTC market as well. Then after that, they went to 3 other customers of ours. They heard the exact same story from those people. Then they came to the ranch in Wyoming, and after looking at the cattle in Wyoming, they looked at me and they said, you have totally changed the whole entire venue. He says, these cattle are not the same as the rest of them, and we have to get these cattle into the UK. So when we call our cattle a new breed called the DaVinci cattle, they are different cattle. They go in a different direction. The customers, the data, and now foreign nationals are saying they absolutely are different.
The big thing I'd push about Lucky 7 is just the honesty of the business. Jim is pushing these ideas, and he backs every one of them up. He's got the scientific data to back up everything he says he does.
It's just so much. You get so much in that package of a Lucky 7 bull. But if anything does happen, you've got Jim's 4-year no bull guarantee, which he really does back.
I can testify to that. We've had some bad luck in the past, and Jim's always stood behind his cattle.
I just love stories about feed-efficient cattle. And you can find out more about Lucky 7's feed-efficient DaVinci cattle by logging on to lucky7angus.com. The Lucky 7 Angus Bull Sale is on the first Saturday in March in Riverton, Wyoming. We hope you enjoyed this show as well. To find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or connect with us on Facebook or YouTube. I'm Pam Minnick. For our entire American Rancher team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.